Hi learners, in this video I'm going to talk about extraordinary general meeting and the procedure related to an extraordinary general meeting and also the secretarial duties which are relating to an extraordinary general meeting. Every general meeting of the shareholders other than the statutory meeting and the annual general meeting is called as an extraordinary general meeting. Statutory meeting is the first meeting of the company after its incorporation with the shareholders. An annual general meeting is the meeting which is held with the shareholders every year. So, leaving the statutory meeting and annual general meeting, all the other general meetings with the shareholders is called as an extraordinary general meeting. Generally, the extraordinary general meetings are convened by the board of directors, in order to transact some urgent business, which cannot be, postponed till the next annual general meeting. Like supposing the company is going with a merger with another company, or it is entering into a joint venture with another company. In such matters, these business matters cannot be postponed till the next annual general meeting. So, in such cases, the directors of the company will hold an extraordinary general meeting in order to get the approval of the shareholders. So every business transacted at extraordinary general meeting is a special business. Next, we move on to who can call an extraordinary general meeting. The board of directors themselves can organize an extraordinary general meeting if they find that there's an urgent business matter which needs to be discussed with the shareholders, or sometimes the board of directors will hold an extraordinary general meeting on the requisition of the members. Requisition of the members means on the request of other shareholders. The requisitionists themselves means if the members who had earlier requested the board of directors to hold an extraordinary general meeting find that the directors have not taken any initiative to hold an extraordinary general meeting, then the requisitionists themselves can organize for the holding of an extraordinary general meeting. And lastly, the company law board. So these are the four parties who can call for an extraordinary general meeting. Now let's go into the further details as to what is the procedure or on what conditions can these members call for an extraordinary general meeting. Firstly, the board of directors. Now, if the board of if in the board of directors some directors find that there is an urgent business matter which needs to be discussed with the shareholders, then first a board meeting should be held and a resolution should be passed in that board meeting approving the holding of an extraordinary general meeting. So once the resolution is passed, then the directors can proceed with the holding of an extraordinary general meeting. Next we have is the board of directors on the requisition of the members. See, members are empowered to demand the convening of an extraordinary general meeting. So, but however, the number of members who are requesting for the extraordinary general meeting should be held should not have less than 1/10 of the paid up capital or 1/10 of the voting rights. So, if people if the number of shareholders who are requesting for the holding of an extraordinary general meeting are at least 1/10 of the people having the paid up 1/10 of paid up capital of the company and members representing not less than 1/10 of the total voting rights, then in such case the members can request the board for the holding of an extraordinary general meeting. So once the requisition is made by the request has been made by the shareholders, then the board must call within 21 days of the deposit of the requisition an extraordinary general meeting. And this meeting should be held within 45 days from the date of requisition. So if so once the board of directors receive the request of the members, they should proceed with holding of the meeting within 45 days. Next, we have is the requisitionist themselves. If the board fails to hold the meeting within 45 days of the deposit of the requisition, then the people who had earlier requested the board of directors for the holding of an extraordinary general meeting can themselves call for a meeting within 3 months from the date of the request which they had made. And lastly, the company law board. The company law board is a governing body which is set up under the Companies Act of 1956 to basically look after the or look after or inspect the working of the companies. So if the company or law board may also order the holding of an extraordinary general meeting either on its own initiative or on the application which is made either by some of the shareholders or the directors of the meeting of the company. So the company law board can also hold the meeting on the initiatives or on the request which is made either by the director or other shareholders of the company. Now let's look into the procedure for holding an extraordinary general meeting. Now, if the extraordinary general meeting is convened at the instance of the directors themselves, then once the directors hold the board of directors meeting, then and after deciding the day, time, place of the extraordinary general meeting, the directors will notify the secretary to send a notice of the extraordinary general meeting at least 21 days before the meeting. Now, along with the notice, an explanatory statement should also be sent to the shareholders. Now, in the explanatory statement, the company will give details about why the special business which is to be transacted at the meeting. So, explanatory statement basically helps the shareholders to know the purpose why the extraordinary general meeting is being held. Next, if the meeting is convened on the requisition of the shareholders themselves, that is the people, the shareholders who had earlier requested the board of directors, and if the board of directors do not hold the extraordinary general meeting, then the shareholders can themselves convene a meeting within 3 months from the date of requisition. So once the shareholders are themselves convening an extraordinary general meeting, then the secretary should first convene a board of directors meeting to inform the directors about the meeting, extraordinary general meeting being held by the shareholders. Further, once the decision is taken to hold the extraordinary general meeting either by the directors or the shareholders, the next step is the notice should be sent to the shareholders with an explanatory statement, and the notice should be sent at least 21 days before the meeting. So like I said, an explanatory statement gives all the material facts, okay, relating to the items of the business which are to be transacted at the extraordinary general meeting. So basically, the explanatory statements explains the purpose of holding the extraordinary general meeting. And also, if any resolution has to be passed in the meeting, the explanatory statement will also specify the nature of the resolution which has to be passed at the extraordinary general meeting. Further, once the notice is sent to the members, the secretary will proceed with secretary and if it is held, if the meeting is held on the instruction of the board of directors, the secretary will proceed with the preliminary arrangements for the holding of the meeting, like making the proxy forms ready, keeping their attendance registers ready, and all that. Next, the next procedure is the chairman on the day of the meeting. The chairman presides over the meeting and instructs the secretary to read the notice of the extraordinary general meeting. And once the notice is read by the secretary, then the items which are there in the agenda are taken up for discussion. So once the discussions on the various topics is over, or which are of all the items which are there in the agenda, then the various items are put to vote. And once the various items are put to vote, if the decision has been taken, then it becomes a resolutions. Then after the meeting, the secretary should should prepare the minutes of the meeting, and in the minutes, the secretary should also specify the resolutions which have been passed at the extraordinary general meeting, and the secretary should get the minutes signed by the director. So once the minutes of this, minutes of the proceedings have been recorded, and the resolutions have also been recorded in the minutes, then a copy of the minutes has to be submitted to the registrar of companies. The copy of the minutes and the resolutions which have been undertaken should be submitted to the registrar at least within 30 days from holding of the extraordinary general meeting. So this was the brief procedure for holding of an extraordinary general meeting. Now moving on to the secretarial duties for holding an extraordinary general meeting. See, once we have studied the procedure for holding extraordinary meeting, from the procedure itself we can try to find out what are the secretarial duties relating to extraordinary general meeting. Like see, this was the procedure for extraordinary general meeting. So here we can we can tell that first duty of the secretary is that the secretary should convene a meeting of the board of directors to decide the date, time, place for holding of an extraordinary general meeting. Then the secretary should send notice of the meeting to the at least 21 days before the meeting. Then the secretary should make sure that the explanatory statement is prepared, and a draft of the explanatory statement should be approved by the board of directors. And the secretary should also make sure that the explanatory statement is sent to the member at least 21 days before. So once the notice is sent, as per the procedure, the secretary will begin with the secretary has to start the preliminary arrangements for conducting of the meeting, like making the attendance registers ready, the seating arrangements should be made ready. Then next, the next duty of the secretary is the secretary should read the notice of the meeting on the instructions of the chairman. Then once the notice is read, the secretary should ascertain the quorum in the meeting. Only if the quorum is present in the meeting, then can the meeting be conducted. So the next thing is the secretary should assist the chairman in conducting or taking or transacting the business of the meeting as per the items which is mentioned in the agenda. Then once the resolutions are put towards, the secretary should make a record of the minutes of the meeting. Then the secretary should prepare the minutes of the meeting and file the copy of the minutes and the special resolutions with the registrar. So this is how, from the procedure of the extraordinary general meeting itself, we can we can try to identify the secretarial duties. So apart from this, we can also tell some other duties could be the secretary should prepare the agenda of the for the meeting. Okay, then the secretary should check for the admission cards at the entrance or at the start of the meeting. Should check, so like these, they are, from the procedure of the extraordinary general meeting itself, we can try to identify the secretarial work relating to an extraordinary general meeting.